a farmer named Ed makes a mysterious request on his deathbed to leave the living room floor untouched for 50 years. His son, Ryan, and later his grandson, Jake, respect this wish, unaware of its significance. After 50 years, Jake discovers something that he will never forget. Watch to discover what he found and subscribe for more stories like this. His grandpa's final words had echoed for 50 years. Promise me you'll never step on the living room floor. For decades, as the old farmhouse groaned under memories and family gossip, everyone respected his odd request. One chilly winter evening, as Jake pried up the first board, his hands shook with disbelief at what lay hidden underneath. What he found that night completely changed what he and his family thought they knew about their grandpa. Ed wasn't your ordinary farmer. For over 40 years, he had worked the land from dawn till dusk. His rough, calloused hands knew exactly when to plant and when to harvest. Neighbors and fellow farmers often asked him for advice because of his special feel for the weather and the soil. His fields always produced the best crops around, a real reward for his years of hard work. During the scorching summer of 1973, while the crops thrived under relentless heat, a somber mood had settled over the old farmhouse. In his final days, the aging farmer Ed lay in bed with his family gathered around him. Everyone knew his time was nearly up. As his strength faded, he called his son Ryan over. In a serious tone, Ed made a strange request. The living room floor must stay untouched. They could fix up any other part of the house, but that floor had to remain exactly as it was for 50 years. Ryan was puzzled by the specific number. Why 50 and not 10 or 20? But when he looked into his father's determined eyes, he couldn't ask any questions. He simply agreed and kept his promise. After Ed passed away, life on the farm went on. Ryan took over the daily work, determined to honor his father's legacy. Seasons changed, crops were planted and reaped, and the old living room floor continued to creak as a quiet reminder of time passing. Over the years, the floor became more worn. Ryan would carefully fix loose boards and fill gaps, but he never replaced the entire floor. His wife often suggested updating the place, noting that many other farmers were modernizing their homes. Yet Ryan just smiled and reminded her of his father's wish. The mystery of the floor soon became a cherished family legend. Ryan's son, Jake, grew up hearing all kinds of theories about Grandpa's strange demand. Some even joked that Ed might have been a little eccentric in his final days, while others said it was all one big practical joke. But Ryan never faltered in keeping his word. That same floor witnessed birthdays, holidays, and endless family get-togethers. It creaked under Christmas trees, held up rearranged furniture, and silently saw both the good times and the bad. Still, no one could figure out what made that simple wooden floor so special. Jake spent his childhood, then his teenage years, and finally his early adult life studying the floorboards during quiet moments, trying to unlock their secret. Yet nothing ever seemed out of the ordinary, even if the wood was slowly aging. By 2020, the farmhouse was clearly worn out. The roof needed fixing, the windows let in cold drafts, and the plumbing was more a patchwork than proper pipes. But it was the old floor that troubled Jake the most. Every step brought new creaks, and some boards even started to sag in a worrisome way. Meanwhile, Ryan, now in his 70s, had moved into a nursing home after a stroke, leaving the future of the farm in Jake's hands. While crunching the numbers on mounting repair costs in 2023, Jake suddenly realized that it had been exactly 50 years since his grandpa had passed away. Had the long wait finally come to an end? Could there be more to his grandpa's odd request than just sentiment? That evening, as the last light faded in the living room, Jake found himself alone with the floor. Looking at it with fresh eyes, he noticed something unusual, a slight difference in the grain of one board. How had he never seen it before? With his heart racing, Jake grabbed some tools from the barn and got to work with a crowbar. At first, the board resisted, then with a sudden sharp crack, it gave way. Hidden beneath that board were several small burlap sacks, neatly tucked away. With trembling hands, Jake picked up the first sack. It felt heavy and solid, and as he untied the drawstrings, Gold coins spilled onto the floor, glittering in his flashlight beam. But the coins weren't the only surprise. Inside one sack was an envelope with yellowed paper. As he read the letter, tears welled in his eyes. In the letter, Ed explained that he had been much more forward-thinking than anyone had guessed. Having lived through the hardships of the Great Depression, he knew how fast inflation could wipe out savings. Over the years, he'd quietly turned part of the farm's earnings into gold coins, sure that their value would hold up while regular money lost its worth. The 50-year wait wasn't random at all. It was planned, based on careful study of economic trends and inflation. By 2023, his modest stash of coins had grown many times over, making sure his family had the funds needed to keep the farmhouse standing, the very home he'd poured his life into. When Jake got the coins appraised, it turned out that what had been a modest sum in 1973 had now become a small fortune. There was more than enough money not only to repair the old house, but also to upgrade much of the farm's equipment. When Ryan heard the news from the nursing home, he broke down in tears. Memories flooded back of his dad staying up late reading financial reports, overhearing talks about inflation and economic cycles, and the serious look in Ed's eyes when he made Ryan promise to wait 50 years. The creaking floorboards that had sparked so many family conversations have been guarding more than just gold. They have been protecting a grandpa's love, wisdom, and his unwavering determination to secure his family's future. In the days following his incredible discovery, Jake felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. The farmhouse, with its creaking floorboards and faded wallpaper, suddenly held the weight of decades of his grandfather's foresight and love, a silent promise that had finally come to fruition. News of the secret treasure spread quickly through the family, transforming what had been a local legend into a beacon of hope for all who had once doubted its value. Relatives, long scattered by time and circumstance, began calling one another, eager to hear every detail of the long-guarded secret. Ryan, now in his 70s, received the news with a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. His eyes welled with tears as he recalled his father's earnest instructions and the careful planning that had characterized Ed's final days. The coin discovery was not just wealth. It was a profound affirmation of family legacy. With a newly appraised fortune in hand, Jake and his relatives met to decide the future of the farmhouse and the surrounding land. They envisioned a future where the farm could once again thrive, bolstered by modern equipment and restored buildings that would honor the past while embracing the future. The first order of business was a careful renovation of the farmhouse. Preservation experts were called in to assess which elements of the old structure needed repair and which carried historical significance, ensuring that Ed's original spirit would continue to resonate through every creak and groove. Contractors and craftsmen arrived, bringing with them a sense of renewed purpose. They worked side by side with the family, carefully restoring not just the farmhouse's functionality, but also its storied charm. The living room floor, the guardian of the secret, was treated with reverence, its boards carefully reinforced rather than replaced. Inspired by his grandfather's vision, Jake began to see the farmhouse as more than just a building. It was a repository of memories and lessons. He started documenting the restoration process, knowing that each repaired board and each renewed room added to the legacy his grandpa had left behind. The community, too, rallied around the news. Local historians and longtime residents contributed stories about Ed and his days as a farmer, turning the restoration project into a communal celebration of the past. The farmhouse soon became a symbol of resilience and unity in the area. A public unveiling of the renovated farmhouse was planned, where family members shared their personal memories and insights about Ed's life. The event was not only a tribute to a beloved patriarch, but also a testament to the transformative power of preserving history and heritage. Amid the excitement, Jake set up a small exhibit in one corner of the farmhouse, displaying the burlap sacks, the gold coins, and a copy of Ed's original letter. Visitors marveled at the meticulous care taken to hide and then reveal the treasure, understanding that every coin carried a piece of the family story. The newfound fortune also allowed for significant upgrades in the farm's operations. Modern farming equipment was purchased, and sustainable practices were introduced to ensure that the land, much like the farmhouse, could support future generations as robustly as it had in the past. With the restoration nearly complete, the farmhouse took on a dual role. It was both a home for the family and a living museum of Ed's life and times. Guided tours were arranged, where Jake narrated tales of the Great Depression, of hope in hard times, and of the wisdom that had silently saved the family from economic ruin. As the seasons changed, the farmhouse became a meeting place for community events, educational workshops, and annual family reunions. It was in these gatherings that the true spirit of Ed's legacy shone through, a reminder that sometimes the most profound gifts are those that transcend time. During one particularly crisp autumn evening, as the family celebrated another successful harvest, Jake found himself reflecting on the path that had led them here. The farmhouse, once marked by creaks and whispers of the past, was now filled with laughter, music, and the promise of new beginnings. Inspired by his grandfather's ingenuity and foresight, Jake initiated plans to establish a small scholarship fund in Ed's name. This fund was designed to help local youth pursue education in agriculture and history, ensuring that Ed's values of hard work, prudence, and love for the land would be passed on. Over the next few years, the farmhouse and farm transformed into a thriving hub of innovation and tradition. Young farmers and historians alike found inspiration in Ed's story, visiting the site to learn about sustainable practices, historical preservation, and the enduring power of family legacy. As the farmhouse evolved into a community landmark, local media picked up the story, and soon, visitors from across the region came to see the secret that had been hidden for 50 long years. Each visitor left with a greater appreciation for the balance between honoring the past and embracing progress. Jake continued to preserve every detail of the restoration and the story behind it, eventually compiling his experiences into a book. This memoir not only chronicled the journey from secret treasure to revitalized legacy, but also served as a manual for preserving the heritage of family and community. Even as the farmhouse buzzed with the energy of renewed life, quiet moments remained sacred. Jake often found himself alone in the restored living room, tracing the grains of the old wooden floor with his fingertips and feeling a deep connection with his grandfather, a silent conversation bridging generations. Ultimately, the farmhouse stood as a living monument to Ed's unwavering love and foresight. It was a reminder that patience and faith can unlock hidden treasures, both literal and metaphorical, ensuring that the legacy of those we hold dear endures for generations to come. If you've ever wondered about the power of legacy and what hidden treasures might lie beneath the surface of your own family stories, take a moment to reflect on the wisdom passed down through generations. What promises are worth keeping? And what kind of mark do you want to leave for future generations? Start a conversation with your loved ones about their stories. Who knows what you might discover, waiting quietly in the background of your family's history. Por 5 segundos. Ultimately, the farmhouse stood as a living monument to Ed's unwavering love and foresight. It was a reminder that patience and faith can unlock hidden treasures, both literal and metaphorical, ensuring that the legacy of those we hold dear endures for generations to come. If Ed's story has inspired you to cherish and preserve your own family history, now is the time to take action. Embrace your heritage, explore the stories hidden in your past, and join our community of legacy keepers who believe that every family has a secret waiting to be uncovered. Visit our website to learn more about historical preservation and discover resources to help you secure your legacy today.